Hello, my name is Grace Tai, and I was mentored by Kati Saperi, and my project is on user-centered design of a productivity app for high school students. So in a study conducted by Solomon and Rothblum in 1984, they found that over 70% of university students consider themselves procrastinators. So this led me to the question, what causes procrastination? And wait, are the slides? I think they're lagging. Okay, and how can it be prevented with an app? So the reason I chose this project is because I've always been interested in web and app development. And I've also had a lot of struggles with procrastination, as many of you guys may have had, especially with distance learning. And I wanted to learn about my peers' experiences with procrastination and how I could design a product that would help them and myself. And in my title, of course, you guys heard the term user-centered design. So what is user-centered design and what are its benefits? Basically, user-centered design is a product design method that involves users in an iterative design process to further understand their needs and improve the product. And this is comprised of 4 main steps, which is data collection, data analysis, prototyping, and user testing. And after that, you can repeat prototyping to better improve the product and do that as many times until your user is satisfied. And in order to collect data, I organized a focus group with 2 of my friends, high school students, to learn about their experiences with procrastination, what apps they use currently for productivity, and what they are looking for in a productivity app. Unlike an interview, a focus group is more casual and allow the participants to share ideas with each other as well as explore new ones. And through this, I collected qualitative data, which is descriptive and conceptual findings, unlike quantitative data, which is mostly numbers. And yeah, because I used qualitative data, I had to analyze them for themes, or like causes of procrastination and potential solutions. And then after that, I created user personas to help define the goals of my app that I would design. And basically, I used Google Jamboard to create like Post-it notes for each of the quotes I gathered from the interview, and all the quotes are in yellow. And then I grouped them together by their common characteristics under themes, which are in blue. And then I also have their overarching topics in pink. And these are the main findings from my thematic analysis, which are that time management is really important for their productivity. Social media apps distract them from their schoolwork, and they mostly use productivity apps to keep track of tasks. And from this data, I created 2 user personas, a primary one, someone who like really needs the app, and a secondary user persona, someone who can use the app but doesn't necessarily need it. And the user personas were each given a background, needs, and past experience with productivity apps. So both of them are high school students with like a lot of homework. And the primary user has a lot of struggles with procrastination and doesn't have a working productivity system, while the secondary user persona has minimal issues with procrastination and may already have a productivity system in place. And then from these results, I defined the goals for my app, which are trying to use the Pomodoro method to help the users study for a period of time and take breaks, allow the user to schedule tasks, and play music for the user to help them concentrate. I then created a conceptual model to demonstrate the goals of my app and represent how the user would interact with it. And so this is not really like the actual design of my app, but creating this will help me like imagine how the people would use it in real life and determine whether these solutions would work for my goals. And then finally, I got to app prototyping. I first drew several wireframes before making a prototype in Figma. Figma, if you guys don't know, is a platform where you can design pages of your app or website and create interactions between them. And And since the participants that I interviewed stated that they would use their laptops the most for school, I created a desk app prototype. And these are just the sketches that I made. So the first one I made was a low fidelity wireframe, which only shows like the basic features. And then the storyboard shows different pages, but not the interactions between them. And after that, and some like revisions, I created my first prototype in Figma. Here are like a few of the main pages. So there's the Pomodoro timer, the to-do list, and a music page. And then when I was done with that, I sent it to my participants for testing. And I interviewed each of them individually and asked questions about what they liked about it, what they would change. So they gave me some both positive and constructive feedback. And here are like the main feedback that they gave. One of them was like a misconception about what one of the buttons was for. Another one was that they really liked the appearance of having multiple things on one page, so you don't have to click a lot of buttons. They also really liked the aesthetic of the color scheme and minimalism. And lastly, they wanted more options for music. So I took all of that feedback and went back to my prototype and modified it. And so like here are basically the modifications that I made. Added a label to make it more clear what the button was for. I added priority. I also went off of what they liked about seeing multiple things on one page and added a to-do list view for the Pomodoro page, as well as a place to control music. And lastly, of course, I added options for playlists so that they could select what they wanted to listen to. And yeah, so that was my whole process with designing the prototype. And I really enjoyed working with Hadi because she introduced me to the topic of human-computer interaction, HCI, and explained to me how important it is, even though it's not like really a huge field. She also guided me through the whole design process and provided me with papers about user-centered design, since I was new to it and I didn't really understand it. But I still completed the research analysis and prototyping myself. But she answered a lot of questions I had and gave me a lot of helpful advice on my paper during revisions. And a few of the learning experiences and challenges I had was that I was new to qualitative data collection and analysis. So I read like several papers about the entire process to help me better understand how to complete my project. I also had to research procrastination, so I would have the background information needed when interviewing my participants. And lastly, I learned more about UX and UI design itself through reading articles and getting used to using Figma. And any remarks? So I only did one iteration of the design process, but more iterations should be done to better improve the prototype. And I also plan on using this prototype to create a real app. Thank you so much for listening. Here are like a few links. I have a video demo of my prototype as well. And you can also like try out my prototype directly on Figma. All right, thank you.